Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Ben Favell. We are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency, Mr David Jalagania, Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Georgia. We also warmly welcome North East Victoria Sub-Branch of the National Servicemen's Association of Australia. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools: from the Australian Capital Territory, Rotary Adventure in Citizenship; from New South Wales, Samuel Gilbert Public School, Castle Hill; St Patrick's Primary School, East Gosford; and Elabana Public School, Elabana; and from Queensland, Moreton Bay College. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Children, please sit. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private John Reeves. John Reeves was born in 1890 to William and Julia Reeves of Lilydale, Victoria. His father was a miner, and after attending St Mary's Roman Catholic School in Castlemaine, John and his younger brother Thomas both went into Thompson's foundry, where John worked as a foundry crane driver and Thomas as an assistant boiler maker. The brothers were known as two of the finest Castlemaine footballers to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force. John enlisted in July 1915, a little over 6 months after Thomas. Like Thomas, he was posted to the 5th Battalion. However, before he had completed his training in Australia, the family received word that Thomas Reeves had been killed in action at Gallipoli in September 1915. John Reeves left Melbourne on the 29th of December 1915 on board the troop ship Demosthenes. He first travelled to Egypt and then on to France, reaching the battlefields of the Western Front in May 1916. 2 months later, the 5th Battalion was involved in its first major action near the French village of Pozières. 2 days after the 1st and 3rd Brigades captured the southern part of the village, the 5th Battalion entered the front line and attacked 2 strong German trenches to the northwest. The attack was only partially successful, and the battalion suffered heavy casualties, including 45 killed, 250 wounded, and more than 150 missing. Private John Reeves was killed in action on the 25th of July 1916. Little is known of the manner of his death, and the location of his body was unknown for many years. However, in 1936, a grave containing the bodies of 2 Australian soldiers was uncovered to the east of Pozières. While one of the bodies remained unnamed, the other was positively identified as Private John Reeves. Both bodies were reinterred in the London Cemetery and Extension at Longueville. John Reeves was 26 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died during the First World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Reeves, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.